and let us all do we can to build a better future.
With that being said, let's move on now to our next story. Daniel, you got a story for the people. What is going on?
Okay, so I have a terrible good story in that it's terrible and something reasonable happened, which makes it good. So a police officer in Orangeburg has been fired and arrested after stomping the head of a man who was on his hands and knees, causing him to hit his head on the concrete. South Carolina authorities said Danburg Department of Public Safety, funny name, Officer David Lance Dukes is charged with first-degree assault and battery in the attack on July 26th, according to a warrant from the State Law Enforcement Division. Duke ordered a 58-year-old man who walks with a stick to the ground, but he moves carefully because he has pins and rods in his leg from a previous injury. Attorney Justin Bramberg told the Times and the Democrat of Orangeburg, "Because of my client's disability, he's relatively slow," he said. The man suffered a bruise onto his forehead and was taken to the hospital by paramedics, according to the arrest warrant. Duke's lawyer said he fully cooperated with state police and is taking the case seriously. "This is a difficult situation and an unfortunate situation," Jack First said. He has absolutely no violent history, and he's not a proclivity to violence. Orangeburg public safety officials said Dukes, 38, was fired after their own review of the incident, which was captured on body camera. So a couple things that I'm holding my breath on because they've happened before. Oh, you forgot to do this step in the process, so he's free to go and you have to hire him back, which of course never applies to any regular civilians. I just thought it was a worthwhile story because the guy didn't die, which is yay. And something actually happened. This guy's actually getting charged. Like, the fact that it made it past a grand jury, which, again, says everything. Because if you go back and if there's one thing I still agree with Drink on, it's if you're a prosecutor, you can indict a ham sandwich to a grand jury. Yeah. Because the point is, again, it doesn't really matter. All you have to do is prove that maybe a case might exist possibly.
Right.
That charges could hypothetically be applied to. And I love prosecutors are always like, I mean, yeah, there's video, but we don't know what to do. We don't think it's a thing. What do you guys think? Oh, you guys don't know either? Well, I guess we don't know what to do. Meanwhile, like, someone brushes against a police officer who walks in their way when they're not looking, and they get charged with assault. And the prosecutor's like, "This guy needs to go to jail. You need to put him in trial." Yeah. So, all right, Kira.
Yeah. Okay. So, just another day in America.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So that's one thing. And then there was actually another thing that I wanted to mention a while ago, but I wasn't on the show either when we talked about it. Like, it was just another day, right? But I think it's something really interesting to bring up insofar as like how our police officers are trained in America. You remember that that story of the officer, the female officer who called taser, 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 and grabbed her gun?
Yeah.
One of the things that was talked about as a result of that situation was that the firearm for the officer is on the dominant side.
Yeah.
And this was talked about as if that was a good thing. Now, I work in stress responses. Like, that's my job. I literally work with stress responses. And so when I heard that, what I heard was that is the automatic response to pull a gun, which this officer did do in this story as well. The automatic response is to pull a gun.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put the gun on our officer's dominant side so that their first reaction is to pull the item that's on their dominant side. They don't have to think extra.
Yeah.
Because you know what, like, I got an impingement in my right shoulder a long time ago. And so what I started doing was a lot of activities that I could just do with my left hand. You know, like brushing my teeth or wiping my butt or whatever. And so I started doing things with my left hand that weren't like writing, right? And since I've been doing that, now I actually very easily go between both hands for things like cleaning my countertops, cleaning mirrors, brushing my teeth, all of that stuff. And you can train somebody to use their less dominant side so that it is not a reactive response to pull the weapon that's going to kill people. Yeah. And so here, having heard that months ago, I never got to share this point of view on the show. Having heard that months ago and then continuing to see all of these stories that come out with police officers killing people or drawing guns on disabled people, it's like, well, yeah, that of course. They're training officers to react instead of use some sort of like slowing.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. It's, I've talked on the show, if an officer thinks they're in 5% danger, they should just shoot the whole family. That's how they've been trained. And it's funny. It's like in the military, when you're off doing the military, it's more restrictive than the police in America. They use their guns like pointers. Like, do this, go over here, do the Hey, you know the thing that you're supposed to never do in the range when you're shooting guns is never point it at someone else because it might go off. Police are like, no, I'm going to use this because you can't see my finger and it's night, and so I'm going to have this thing that's... here's the other problem with it. Imagine this scenario in America. If a pedestrian isn't in the street and you hit them, that's fine. Which we're starting to see with certain contexts anyway. But if someone's in the street and you hit them, that's fine. I sort of disagree with your statement. I think that it's like you have to get like so many steps in. It's just like what we were talking about before. You've already failed so many layers down where you're at a point where you're like, okay, maybe dominant, non-dominant hand. The problem is that they can run people over and not go to jail. They can shoot people and they get to review the footage before, and they can't get sued directly. There is much more than just a hand. There is no everything about policing makes it so that cops want to shoot people. It's actually worse if you injure someone because they might sue you. There's someone that can speak against you. Now a lawsuit's happening. If you shoot them and kill them, there's no issue because it's just you that are making the point. And you can't get sued if you're a cop for that anyway. Your union's going to back you. You're going to be able to review all the evidence ahead of time. And the prosecutor's going to try to not indict you anyway. I think those are all like many orders of magnitude more relevant to using a gun like a laser pointer than dominant stress response.
Certainly. But I'm just speaking to the messaging that is the stress response. Like, I'm not saying that qualified immunity isn't something that is one of the big factors causing our policing issue in America, or the fact that a lot of our officers are pulled directly from groups like the Proud Boys and other groups that want to do violence. What I'm pointing to is that really the really underlying messaging of using the dominant side is like, hey, this is your first response.
Yeah. And we even, like, another thing that we do, which is crazy in its own right, because police will literally go around their own, like, I remember there was something, I think it was Montana, where they outlawed, and the cops were like, you can't stop us, we're going to do it ourselves, which is specifically getting training that the Israeli forces that have been imported from Israel with their treatment of the Palestinians. That's a lot of the training they get are from Israeli forces, specifically designed for that kind of purpose. But again, I would even say it this way, if the law was that if you shoot a civilian, and there's any way that it could be argued that if you didn't need to, that you're in trouble and you're going to go to jail, if there was any reason someone to argue against it and it's an automatic trial, I don't think they'd be pulling those guns out of those holsters as quickly.
No. Yeah. Or maybe if they got even slapped with the civil lawsuit.
Yeah.
Like, forget about jail. What if they just had to pay the $600,000 lawsuit?
Yeah. And then it's like, why are we as citizens paying for the police? Again, it's like, I would say even better I would prefer than suing an officer directly, that when you sue them the same way we do it now, but the money 50% comes out of police pension fund, because then every cop is going to be mad at you that you cut into to their retirement. Then you would take the thin blue line groupthink and you use it against them.
Yeah. That's really smart. Yeah.
So
I like that idea.
Both good points, Kira and Daniel. Well done. I don't think there's anything else I can add. I think we all know that it's just another day in America. Great conversation. Again, this is why we need to start stepping up and demanding more accountability. Great
Agreed.
points, both of you.
Yes.